The Grand Crescent Hotel, a majestic edifice gazing out over the city like a watchful gargoyle. Its walls whispered tales of bygone eras. Opulence and grandeur clung to its every cornice, each polished floorboard reflecting a rich, storied past. Generations celebrated within its gilded ballroom, danced beneath its sparkling chandeliers. Yet beneath the veneer of elegance, a darkness lingered. Guests whispered of cold spots. Unexplained noises echoed through the halls, footsteps falling on marble when the corridors stood empty. A chill like a phantom draft followed you through the grand lobby, but nowhere was this sense of unease more palpable than on the third floor. At the end of a dimly lit corridor lay room 314. Its door, crafted from dark oak, remained perpetually locked. A brass "Do Not Disturb" sign hung crookedly, a silent sentinel guarding a troubled space. No maid dared clean it, no guest would sleep within. For room 314 was notorious. It was the room where guests checked in, but never checked out. Two days had passed since the unsettling discovery in room 314. 2 days of hushed whispers among the staff, of nervous glances towards the sealed door. Daniel, his youthful confidence shaken, found himself drawn to the hotel's old lounge. It was a place where time seemed to stand still, where the ghosts of the past lingered in the shadows. He sought out Edgar, the retired bellhop. Edgar, with his stooped posture and faded uniform, was a relic of a bygone era, a living embodiment of the hotel's long history. His eyes, though clouded with age, still held a spark of knowing, a depth that spoke of countless stories witnessed, of secrets kept safe within the walls of the Grand Crescent. "Edgar," Daniel began, his voice barely a whisper, "I need to ask you about room 314. The old man turned slowly, his gaze piercing through Daniel like a beacon cutting through fog. "Ah, the young man seeks answers," he rasped, his voice a dry whisper. "Room 314 holds many secrets, young one, secrets best left undisturbed." Daniel persisted. He told Edgar about the spectral figure, the chilling cold, the unsettling feeling that something was deeply wrong. As he spoke, he watched as a flicker of recognition crossed the old man's face. A knowing look, tinged with sadness and a hint of fear. "The man you saw?" Edgar finally spoke, his voice barely audible above the crackling fire. He wore a gray suit, sharp, like a businessman, eyes, cold, piercing blue, like chips of ice. Daniel nodded, his pulse quickening. This was it. Edgar knew something. "Yes, that's him. Did you ever see him? Do you know who he is?" Edgar took a deep breath, his chest rattling with the effort. "Alden Grey," he whispered, the name seeming to hang in the air, thick with unspoken dread. "He was a guest here, long ago." The year was 1947. The war had just ended, and the world was slowly piecing itself back together. Edgar, a young bellhop then, full of ambition and dreams, remembered the day Alden Grey arrived at the Grand Crescent. He had arrived alone, his only luggage a single, well-worn suitcase. Grey had been a man of few words, his demeanor aloof, almost arrogant. He kept to himself, rarely leaving his room. Edgar, tasked with delivering his meals, had felt a chill every time he approached room 314. The air around the room felt heavy, oppressive, as if an unseen weight pressed down upon him. One evening, as Edgar delivered a telegram to room 314, he swore he saw a flicker of movement in the shadows behind Grey, a fleeting glimpse of something unnatural, something that sent a shiver down his spine. He dismissed it as a trick of the light, but the memory lingered, a dark stain on his recollections. Edgar never saw Alden Grey check out. One day he was simply gone. Vanished without a trace, leaving behind only an unsettling silence in his wake. The staff whispered that he had met with foul play, that perhaps he had run afoul of the wrong crowd in the city's underbelly. But Edgar harbored a darker suspicion. He had heard rumors, whispers from the older staff, of a secret history surrounding the Grand Crescent, of a darkness that clung to its very foundations. They spoke of deals made with unseen entities, of souls bargained for power and wealth. "They say," Edgar whispered, his voice raspy with age and dread, "that Alden Grey made a pact, a deal with something ancient. He gained wealth, influence, immortality, but at a terrible cost." He looked at Daniel, his eyes filled with a chilling certainty. "They say he became bound to this hotel, trapped within its walls for all eternity." The revelation hung heavy in the air, a suffocating truth that settled over Daniel like a shroud. Alden Grey, the man who haunted room 314, was not a ghost. He was a prisoner, trapped by his own ambition, bound to the hotel by a pact made in desperation or folly. That night Daniel couldn't shake the image of Grey's face from his mind, the cold, piercing eyes, the air of resigned despair that clung to him. He felt a strange mix of pity and terror, a growing fascination with the man who had become a legend in the annals of the Grand Crescent. As the clock chimed midnight, Daniel found himself drawn back to the lobby. The grand hall, usually bustling with activity, was eerily silent. The air felt heavy, charged with an unseen energy. It was as if the very walls were holding their breath, anticipating something momentous. And then he saw him. Alden Grey emerged from the shadows near the grand staircase, his figure as sharp and defined as the day Edgar had described him. He wore the same charcoal suit, impeccably tailored, a timeless garment that seemed to mock the decades that had passed. His hair, once brown, was now silver, but his piercing blue eyes held the same chilling intensity. Grey moved with a measured grace, his footsteps silent on the polished marble floor. He stopped a few feet from Daniel, a wry smile playing on his lips. "So, you've heard my tale then?" he asked, his voice surprisingly warm, like a familiar melody. Daniel, despite the chill, found himself strangely calmed by Grey's presence. There was no malice in his eyes, only a profound sadness. "It's a heavy burden," Grey continued, his gaze fixed on Daniel as if peering into the young man's soul. "This immortality. To watch the world change outside these walls, to see lives begin and end while I remain tethered to this place." He gestured towards the grand lobby, his expression a mixture of disdain and longing. "There is no escape," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "Not unless—" He paused, his eyes boring into Daniel, a flicker of something akin to hope dancing in their depths. "Unless someone willingly takes my place." The words hung in the air between them, a lifeline tossed across a chasm of despair. Daniel felt a surge of adrenaline, a rush of conflicting emotions. Fear, of course, at the sheer audacity of Grey's proposal, but also a strange sense of possibility. He had stumbled upon a secret that had remained hidden for decades. Alden Grey, the man who had haunted the halls of the Grand Crescent for so long, was not a malevolent spirit, but a prisoner desperate for release. And Daniel, an unlikely savior, held the key to his freedom. "Why me?" Daniel finally asked, his voice barely a whisper. Grey's smile widened, revealing a flash of sharp, white teeth. "You are young," he said, his voice filled with a strange mix of envy and admiration, full of life, ambition. "You have so much to lose." "But also," Grey continued, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, "so much to gain." He stepped closer, his shadow falling over Daniel like a shroud. "Imagine, young Daniel, the power at your fingertips, the wealth, the influence, immortality itself." He extended a hand towards Daniel, his palm open, inviting. "Take my place," he urged, his voice both a plea and a command. "Become the master of this grand old dame, rule over her corridors, her secrets, live forever." The offer hung in the air, heavy with temptation and unspoken consequences. Daniel stared at Grey's hand, his heart pounding in his chest. He could feel the pull of it, the allure of power and immortality, but deep down, a voice whispered a warning. What price would he have to pay for such a gift? Was this a chance at greatness, or a one-way ticket to eternal damnation? Daniel stood frozen, caught in the web of Grey's proposal. Immortality. Power. The words echoed in the vast emptiness of the lobby, each syllable a hammer blow against his resolve. He looked into Grey's eyes, those icy blue orbs that had witnessed generations pass, and saw not malice but a desperate longing for release. He thought of his own life, a tapestry barely begun. His dreams, his aspirations all shimmered before him, fragile as a soap bubble. What would he become, trading his fleeting humanity for an eternity spent within these opulent walls? Could he bear the weight of such a bargain? The knowledge that his freedom came at the cost of another's eternal imprisonment? The silence stretched, thick and suffocating. The air crackled with unspoken tension, the weight of their encounter pressing down upon them. Grey, sensing Daniel's hesitation, withdrew his hand, a flicker of resignation crossing his features. The following morning, a heavy silence hung over the Grand Crescent Hotel. The staff moved with a subdued air, their usual cheerful banter replaced by hushed whispers and furtive glances. The events of the previous night had cast a long shadow, a palpable sense of unease that permeated every corridor, every room. Word had spread quickly among the staff. Room 314, the source of countless rumors and spectral tales, was to be permanently sealed. Maintenance workers, their faces grim, moved with an almost reverent silence as they boarded up the door, each swing of the hammer a final nail in the coffin of a troubled past. Daniel watched from a distance, his heart heavy with a mix of relief and guilt. He had made his decision, choosing the fleeting comfort of his own mortality over the seductive yet terrifying promise of eternity. But the encounter with Grey had left an indelible mark. A chilling reminder that some doors are best left unopened, some secrets better left buried. Life at the Grand Crescent Hotel returned to its rhythm. Guests came and went, unaware of the secrets whispered within the walls. Daniel couldn't forget his encounter with Alden Grey. He was drawn to room 314, a silent sentinel guarding its secrets. The air felt charged, echoing the man trapped within. Late at night, Daniel heard faint scratching, sending shivers down his spine. Section 4. The Guest Who Never Left. The Grand Crescent Hotel, with its grand facade, stood as a testament to a bygone era, where the past and present intertwined. Its secrets whispered on the wind, carried on the hushed breaths of those who dared to listen. Daniel, marked by his encounter, continued his nightly vigil, a silent guardian against the darkness. Some bargains could never be undone, some debts never repaid. The guest in room 314 remained, a chilling reminder that some doors are best left unopened, some secrets better left undisturbed. The Grand Crescent Hotel held its breath, forever bound to the man who made it his eternal home. Section 1. The Lingering Presence. The Grand Crescent Hotel, a monolith of elegance and mystery, stood defiant against the passage of time. Its grandeur remained undiminished, its secrets safely locked away behind its ornate facade. But the events surrounding room 314 had left an indelible mark, a subtle shift in the atmosphere like a discordant note in a haunting melody. Daniel, forever changed by his encounter with Alden Grey, continued his duties as night manager. The once mundane routine now held a new weight, every creak of the floorboards, every sigh of the wind through the eaves, a chilling reminder of the unseen presence that lingered within the hotel's walls. He could sense it most strongly on the third floor. The air there remained perpetually cold, even in the heat of summer, a subtle chill that seemed to emanate from the sealed door of room 314. Guests, oblivious to the room's dark history, still reported strange occurrences, flickering lights, disembodied whispers, a feeling of being watched. Section 2. Whispers in the Walls. The staff, bound by silence, carried on with forced smiles, avoiding room 314. Whispers of the hotel's haunted past circulated among the city's elite. Some dismissed them as superstition, others spoke of Alden Grey's deal with the devil. They spoke of the room at the end of the hall where time stood still. Section 3. The Grand Crescent's legacy. The Grand Crescent Hotel stood sentinel, a silent witness to human life, its secrets buried deep. A place of allure and unease, a magnet for solace seekers, and a source of morbid fascination. The guest who never checked out, trapped in room 314, became part of the hotel's legend, a cautionary tale. The Grand Crescent, with its grandeur and shadows, forever carries its secrets, a mask concealing whispers of the past.